Oh man, David coming out swinging. You ain't lying. What's going on, people? It is my turn to troll, he said. Yes, sir. I wanted to return the favor. You know, it's funny. I was actually going to go live earlier. Then I saw that you was going live. Can't interrupt the goat. So I was like, let's see what David's talking about. Make sure that I don't, put out some, kind of repeat content there. So yes, it is your time to troll, man. And you're getting the Drake treatment, the back to back today. So appreciate y'all, man. Hope you guys are having a nice day. Beautiful weather out here in Denver. Man, it's been a crazy start to the free agency period, and it hasn't even started yet. So officially, less than 24 hours away. I'm super pumped. Want to know what you guys are feeling. As we get going, guys, make sure to check out the Discord channel. I linked it down below in the description. David Talks Broncos VIP. He's done an amazing job of getting some true VIPs from the local Denver media up and popping with it. So shout out to you, David. Well done, man. And yeah, hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. So let's see this. So is Marky the closer? David just hit a double out to left field. I wouldn't say that, man. It just worked out. But yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. Definitely check out the David Talks Broncos VIP Discord. It's a great time. Breaking news and a lot of really great insights, that you don't really get anywhere else. But what's nice about it is it's all on one platform. So we're having a good time there. So, just to kind of go down some of the news that's broken before, free agency, right? We had talked about Nick Bolton as being a lot of people's targets at linebacker, certainly on the Broncos' radar. He is now gone on a 3-year deal worth, what does it look like here, man? 3-year deal worth 45 million. It's essentially a 2-year, $30 million when you're talking about the guaranteed portion. I actually don't think it's a bad contract in terms of now that kind of sets the limit, right? We kind of understand what the market price is going to be for these linebackers. I would expect for, and this is not any kind of, I don't have these ranked per se, but the highest graded guy right now is certainly going to be Dre Greenlaw. You would expect that the 3-year, $45 million is probably his ceiling. And I'd be fine with something like that. If you come in a little bit lower, that would be even more ideal for somebody like a Dre Greenlaw. And I think you could come a little bit lower because of the injury to the Achilles. Yes, it is a concerning injury, but what's nice about it is that full year time frame is already passed. So it's not like you're going to be getting him limited. You're going to be getting a guy that's, I think, ready to go right off the bat. A couple of additional names we haven't really talked about, right? And I think Ernest Jones is actually, I don't recall. I think he might have signed back. I put this together a while ago. But Robert Spillane is somebody that's super interesting when you're talking about a player that I think in his, he's kind of one of those guys that had a really slow start to his career, and then he started to pop off a lot more over the past couple of years with the Raiders. So he could be a really interesting kind of bargain guy. He's still only 29 years old. So when you're talking about, let me just do this real quick. So yeah, when you're talking about somebody like a Robert Spillane, man, I think he's still 29 years old. He's been somebody that's ranked fairly decently. Let me fix some of the screen stuff we got going on, but I mean his run defense was incredible last year with the Raiders. Not really a coverage guy if you're talking about PFF stuff, and he was third in the entire NFL in solo tackles, which is pretty damn impressive. But like I said, he's going to be more of that run defender. And it's always interesting when you're talking about linebackers that are out there because you're going to have guys that you want to be your coverage dudes. You want guys to be able to go out there and stuff to run it. And Robert Spillane is certainly going to be one of those guys that can go out there and stop the run for you when you're talking about the type of player that he is. And like I said, at 29 years old, it's not like he's too old, but he's going to be a bargain basement level linebacker. So he's somebody that I think could be, wave 2, wave 3 guy that the Broncos could potentially bring in. But, he's had 2 really good seasons after kind of struggling in his career in Vegas. I mean, over 1,000 snaps both years. So you're talking about, really good versatility, ability to be able to stay healthy, which is very good. But, in both years, he was one of the highest graded run defending linebackers in the NFL, back-to-back years in the Vegas scheme. And even in his final year in Pittsburgh, he had a pretty good run defense grade too. But like I said, coverage is definitely by no means in his forte at all. In fact, He basically is allowed, over 75% completion percentage against him and several touchdowns each of the last few years. So, not really somebody that you want to have in coverage. And the concerning thing about it is you can only limit that happening so much, right? I mean, you could have him on what you would think is considered rundowns, but teams will start to, really be able to understand that if they can get Robert Spillane in coverage, they're going to be able to take advantage of it. But, just another name out there that I think is interesting when it comes to, some of the available linebackers, no doubt about it. Somebody else that I had mentioned and talked about too was Divine Diablo. And you're talking about looking at the same exact team. He's someone that if I remember always, what the hell? Am I spelling Diablo wrong? Let's see. All right, maybe he just doesn't exist. Am I tripping? Hold on. Oh, yeah. I'm just an idiot. That's cool. So it's actually like divine, like the word divine. Spelling the whole thing wrong. All right. And yeah, Divine Diablo, another guy. Now, he's a little bit more intriguing because he's a really young player. At 26 years old, going into his, year 27 season. He was a third-round pick for the Raiders a few years ago. And, he seems like somebody that kind of flies around a little bit. He's got a little bit more coverage chops to him, but not necessarily. And like I said, when you're looking at the PFF grades, he doesn't necessarily grade out extremely well, but he seems like from when, the things that you read about him is he's kind of an intriguing player, a really good athlete, someone that, is still got some developing to do. But at 6'3", 223, he's definitely underwhelming in terms of the size. But, if you kind of look at Vance Joseph's history, he likes to have a lot of those versatile linebackers that are not necessarily, the big, physical guys, but guys that you can, use inside the box. You can send on a pass rushes. You can kind of move around. That can move a bit. And he's definitely one of those guys too. But the fact that we're looking at two Raiders to start off the day, I don't know about all that. That's a little bit frustrating. But yeah, there's some intriguing names. We talked about EJ Speed, so I don't want to go back and be a little bit redundant in terms of the guys that we've talked about a lot. But those are some interesting players as well. And let me know, guys, in the chat if there's anybody that you want me to kind of focus on. But yes, absolutely. I mean, the name Divine Diablo is a grade A name. And I feel like if you're going to start this free agency, by all accounts, what a lot of the reporters are saying is that it's going to be one of those, the teams are not really impressed by the free agent class, which is why a lot of these deals are happening early. A lot of trades are happening because it's going to be a little bit underwhelming. So if that's really the case and the Broncos front office feels that way, I say you sign guys strictly based off of name value, right? Starting off with Poona Ford. Can't go wrong with there. Divine Diablo. Javon Kinlaw, right? David, your boy. Not only would he be a good player, but Javon Kinlaw, man, Divine Diablo. You're talking about some intimidating names out there. EJ Speed, that's got to be up there. So I just say go after straight name value, right? Dre Greenlaw. There's a lot of really good, solid, strong football names when you're talking about, guys available via free agency. Is there any tight ends that you can think of that maybe have some sick name value? Not really. You got Juwan Johnson, you got Evan Ingram, boring. Stone Smart maybe is somebody. Kenny Yeboah. I'm good with that. Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble is actually really good. But yeah, I mean, speaking of the tight ends, right? You had Mike Gesicki go off the board, signing a 3-year, $25.5 million deal to return back to the Bengals. I was actually really surprised they got that deal done. Didn't seem very Bengal-esque to do it, but they found a way to pull it off. So good for them. He would have been a really fun option, but we added Evan Ingram to the pool, right? Evan Ingram is somebody that I think is severely underrated. Definitely injuries are a problem with him, but dude, 114 catches just 2 years ago from the tight end position is crazy, wild. So he's a pure receiving tight end, and I'm all about it. Tommy Tremble, y'all know how I feel about him. I'm a really big fan. And then after that, it's and then you got Juwan Johnson. But really, after those guys, let's pull this up and go through this again. But after those dudes, it is extremely underwhelming when you're talking about guys that are available. It's actually kind of wild. Um, my face is kind of blocking. Hold up. Let me see if I can see if I can, get some of this. But yeah, you're talking about, after Evan Ingram, Juwan Johnson, Tommy Tremble. Oh, I did forget to add somebody here in Tyler Conklin, who I really like. And so I'll put these in order. So when you're talking about, and sorry guys, you guys are about to see like how terrible I am at using Excel. I hate this program. But yeah, I mean, after these four guys minus Mike Gesicki, right? Here we can just move out of the way. After these four guys, it's really, really underwhelming. So I think it's imperative that the Broncos try to find a way to land one of these four guys at minimum. None of them are going to be the full solution, but they're going to be really, really good options to be able to bring in guys that you can rely on, that can make plays. And so, yeah, I mean, with Zach Ertz out, with Mike Gesicki out, it really limits the amount of guys that are available. Now, you could talk about trade candidates or trade targets potentially, looking at Mark Andrews is somebody that's always talked about, but those are all hypotheticals. We can't really get into it until it's an actual legitimate option. So I think it's imperative, guys, to get, Evan Ingram, Juwan Johnson, Tyler Conklin, or Tommy Tremble. Really, at this point, I just want to see any of them come to Denver because we need a full revamp. And I don't want to hear these stories anymore of like, oh, yeah, Lil Jordan Humphreys gaining weight to play tight end. I mean, he's done that before in his career. If you guys don't remember, when he was with the Patriots, at one point they converted him over to tight end. And it kind of makes sense for somebody like him, but like I'm just kind of over it. He's not going to be any kind of a solution there. I'm interested. Like, I think it's a good idea for him to come into camp and get some tight end reps and like see what he can do there. But let's not try to talk ourselves into him being a legitimate weapon at tight end. Andy, thank you for this, man. Shout out to you, Andy. Awesome content as always, man. After talking to sources, this is via Zach Stevens. He said, after talking to sources, the two inside linebackers to really have your eye on for Denver to pursue is Jamien Sherwood and Robert Spillane. And that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny because when you listen to somebody like Mike Kliss talk a lot, he'll always kind of like randomly bring guys up or tweet about guys. And he's been tweeting about Robert Spillane a lot. And so, yeah, I mean, I can see that. And if the Broncos were to sign both of those guys, hell yeah, I'm good with that. Like, add two dudes to that room, and then see what you can get out of, Drew Sanders as he makes his transition there. So I like that. And man, I did not know this. I don't know why I did not see this, but I did not see that Tommy Tremble had signed. Thanks for pointing that out. Yep, that is absolutely the case. And damn, that sucks. I was at a birthday party last night. I was doing a lot of family stuff, so I was super not locked in. I did not see that at all. So, yeah. Do you like Willie Gay? I like Willie Gay as a part of the names to bring over. Yeah, hell yeah, all day. I'm all about that, man. Bring in all the great names to Denver when it comes to the free agents. But damn, so Tommy Tremble coming off too. Yeah, that makes it really frustrating. It does. But also not really, because it just basically shows that we're going to have to really pursue tight end as much as we can going into the draft. And I felt like that was always going to be the case regardless of who we signed in free agency. But it kind of makes us tip our hand a little bit more. Like, teams are going to know that. So we're going to see. But there's a lot of really good ones in this draft in terms of redoing the tight end market. So, we shall see. Who's faster, LJH or Lucas Kroll? I'd say Lil Jordan Humphrey for sure. Lil Jordan Humphrey can actually move, man. But that's about it. His problem is everything else. So I'm at the point where like I wish he would just like change his name or his jersey number or something, just so we can get a little bit of a fresh a fresh start with him. Adding Mike McGlinchey, LJH, Lucas Kroll, Mike McGlinchey. Ooh, I think McGlinchey might have him in like the 60-yard sprint. We'll see. Teams should do that just to really show who the fastest one is. But man, that Tommy Tremble news really bummed me out. So it looks like it's going to be one of those free agency periods, man, where if you're not getting a select few like elite guys, right? I wouldn't say any of these guys are per se elite, but they're elite when it comes to the free agency class. If you're not going to, and then you're looking at linebacker, if you're not going to get like Dre Greenlaw, maybe Jamien Sherwood or Evan Ingram, you're really just going to be settling for Band-Aid solutions or guys that can, improve your team, but not in a crazy way. You can get a ton of value and a ton of really, really good players at safety. Check out David's video from yesterday. He broke down all the really great safety positions, and there's a lot. There's quite a bit. And there's some intriguing D linemen. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the Broncos ultimately do tomorrow. Because there's a lot. There's a lot of it's like I almost feel like we never know. Since Sean Payton's come here, we've never really known like what the Broncos are going to do. No one's really been able to like predict these are exactly the players that they feel like the Broncos are going to get. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But dude, this would be a ginormous win. And Andy, I think you nailed it on the head. This might be my favorite. Like if I could choose 3 free agents to get, Aaron Jones, Juwan Johnson, and Jamien Sherwood would make a ton of sense. Our 3 biggest positions of need, really solid players. I think all of them would be at a decent cost, so we could easily afford all of them, no doubt about it. And yeah, that would be a hell of a free agency haul to start off the free agent period. I like it. And let's break all these down. So Aaron Jones, he's probably going to get like a 1-year deal, guys, and it's going to be like maybe even in the $7 to $8 million range. And that I can understand that's a lot, but you have to understand the importance of it is it's just for 1 year. And so when you compare it to like Najee Harris might get similar average, he's probably going to get a little bit more, but like from a average salary standpoint in terms of like per year, it might be similar to Aaron Jones, but you can have a lot more guaranteed money and a lot more years tied to him. Aaron Jones makes a ton of sense because he's a perfect bridge running back for whichever running back or running backs we get in the draft. So yeah, Aaron Jones all day, somebody that's just going to be really solid. He's still got good football left, had a really good year last year. Juwan Johnson, for a lot of obvious reasons, he can come in and be that pass catcher, receiving tight end that has the ability to block. He knows the system. He knows exactly what's expected of him from Sean Payton. So yeah, he'd be a huge upgrade there. And then Jamien Sherwood just makes more and more sense from the standpoint that he's still young. He's not going to cost a lot. He's an ascending player. He learned from C.J. Mosley when he was with the Jets, and he played really, really well. So I like him a lot. And what would that entail? Running back room of Aaron Jones, Omarion Hampton, Estime, and Blake Watson is a running back room that I can 1,000% get behind, dude. No doubt about it, man. Omarion Hampton could be your bell cow. Aaron Jones can just be your third down back, or vice versa, right? In terms of how those two are used. And then Blake Watson and Audric Estime are phenomenal depth pieces, right? You have a guy in Estime that can be a little bit more of a workhorse if he's needed. You already know how I feel about Blake Watson. I love him. I love that talent as a pass catching back. Yeah, that's a hell of a running back room. And it's not going to, it's a good mix of young guys, veteran dudes. You're not going to be spending a lot. I'm all about that. And then you look at a, potential tight end room, right? If you're signing Juwan Johnson, you could have Juwan Johnson, Terrence Ferguson, Aronde Gatson later on in the draft, right? Or maybe if you're going to go a little bit higher in terms of getting somebody, you can even say, Colston Loveland with Juwan Johnson and then an Aronde Gatson later. I mean, I'm all for that. That's a really good room overall. Mason Taylor would make a lot of sense if you get Juwan Johnson as well. I like Mason Taylor in general. So hell yeah, dude. And that's the thing. Like as fans, we get so pumped up about free agency. I always do. And then when your team is like a little bit quiet, or you see all these other teams making all these moves, I mean, it's already started, right? You got teams making trades. You got teams re-signing their guys. Broncos fans are just like, what are the Broncos doing? But you got to look at it as the entire offseason after the draft, right? And things change like crazy, man. There's always veteran guys that become available, after the draft in May, because teams will cut them to be able to, save money, or they end up drafting somebody that they didn't expect to get so they can release a veteran. So these things are super fluid. And, you really going into camp is when you can look at the offseason and say, hey, this is what we got. And these are the guys, the pieces that we added and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. And the Broncos, they've made draft day trades the last 2 years. What makes you think they can't do it again? I think for us, man, if we end up extending Zach Allen, that would be a huge win if we can get Nick Bonito a new contract early, because you can see how the market could just inflate the longer you wait. That's huge. I would love that. You can free up a lot of cap space by doing that with Zach Allen specifically. And yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we need a starting tight end so that we aren't forced into draft one too high, in case the other good players at positions are available to select. Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. And that's why getting at least one of those top 4 guys is very, very important, man. Because that's exactly the situation that you want to avoid, is by, kind of overreaching. But I mean, if you look at I can't foresee a situation where Sean Payton is just like reaching for a tight end that he doesn't necessarily have value on, because he's confident enough that he can make do with whatever options are given to him. If he can get himself a really impact running back, he might not necessarily freak out so much about tight end and be able to just take one as the draft board comes to him. But I mean, you never know how they're ultimately going to react in that situation. And it's unfortunate because, like, let's say they really love Colston Loveland, hypothetically, and then they end up taking them at 20. Everyone's always going to think, oh, maybe they reached for him, or whatever the situation might be. So you want to go in there just taking BPA and going that about. So I agree with you 100%. That's going to be the most fascinating thing to me, is what are we going to do at inside linebacker and at tight end? I love Andy's, I'll put that back up on the screen. I love what he had mentioned, right, with Juwan Johnson and Jamien Sherwood at those 2 positions, plus an Aaron Jones. But man, if that doesn't end up happening, or we don't address one of these positions, it's going to be really, really concerning. But we just got to maintain our trust that we have in George Payton and Sean Payton. One thing that they've shown in every sense of the way is they're extremely patient. Nothing seems like rushed or crazy. There always seems to be some sort of a plan with them. So we just got to trust in that and see, but I'm pumped up. What if we run it back with Troutman, Kroll, Atkins, and Burton? Kodiak, you're the best, dude. You are the best, man, because you're always giving these crazy, like, absolute worst case scenario and what would happen if. And if this was the case, I just wouldn't believe that there's not something that the Broncos that they're going to do, like trade-wise or whatever, but that would be dreadful. Very, very dreadful. And yeah, I mean, I would bet that the Broncos tight end room is probably going to be the worst in the NFL if that was the case. But hey, man, I don't even want to think about that. That'd be damn funny though. No doubt about that. And then I think, what are the Broncos going to do at punter, right? I mean, I know it's punter, but why haven't they re-signed Riley Dixon already, right? How does the Rizzler, Dan Rizzi feel about it? I don't know. I have no idea. So there's going to be a lot of those things too. I just have a really big feeling that the Broncos might be more involved in the trade market than we anticipate. It seems like because the free agency class is not really that big, you might have to pursue teams and make trades. And I think that they would prefer to do it with next year's picks, maybe. So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of avenues that we can take. You think the Broncos would sign John Bates as tight end too? He's an interesting guy that I was looking into. I think he's a possibility. There's a lot of these like lower tier guys that don't really have the big names that I feel like the Broncos are really attracted to, because they feel like they can fit these guys into their system and in terms of what they want to do. And John Bates is somebody that kind of fits that mold a little bit, right? After spending a few years with Washington. So, I mean, maybe as a tight end too, but he's going to be one of those guys that, like, I feel like, yeah, okay, sure, you can bring him in and, he can come in and maybe bring some sense of intrigue for your team. But I don't know. I mean, as it's crazy because you think about it now, like, could John Bates be our tight end too? Our tight end room is so bad. Almost anybody can be our tight end too. We just need to be able to figure out the rest of the room. John Bates is arguably, he's not worse than anybody that we have currently on our team, but that's not really saying much. So Jerome Brown out here coming saying Evan Ingram, Colston Loveland, and Adam Troutman. Yeah, I can deal with that. I can deal with that. You might be missing a little bit on like blocking ability, right? You could keep Nate Atkins for that reason as well, to be able to be the other blocker. But dude, Evan Ingram and Colston Loveland, I mean, you talk about two guys that are, one is an elite pass catching tight end. The other one projects to be that. So yeah, all day. Get some juice and just get weapons around Bo Nix, man. Bo Nix needs to be able to have guys that he can feel confident with. We need somebody else outside of of Cortland Sutton. And I'm still all about the Cooper Kupp signing. Like, I feel like if you sign Cooper Kupp, and if, some of the reports came out earlier saying that, I guess they're lowering the asking price for him. Dude, throw a 6th round pick or something at him, or swap like a 4 and a 5. I don't really care. But get him in, because Cooper Kupp actually alleviates a lot of your tight end issues, because he can play a hybrid tight end role, in a sense of, instead of having Evan Ingram line up in the slot like he always does, or probably putting Colston Loveland in the slot, you just put Cooper Kupp there and good to roll. So he helps your tight end room a lot, even though he's not a tight end, just because of the way he plays. Physical player. They're always running him around in motion out of different sets. He can just play everywhere. I'm still all aboard the Cooper Kupp acquisition. If he was to get released, he would probably jump up to number 2 on my tight end, on my free agency wish list overall. It's still Godwin. You already know. The God that wins, Chris Godwin himself, is still my number 1 target overall. Number 2 would certainly be Cooper Kupp, and Chris Godwin for the same reasons as Cooper Kupp, but he's a little bit younger. I think he's a little bit more dynamic, because those guys, even though they're wide receivers, they can alleviate a lot of the tight end issues that we have. And then Dre Greenlaw would probably be my 3rd on my wish list, and you can go from there. So any one of those top 3, I'd be thrilled. If you get 2 of those top 3, I'm over the moon. I mean, imagine you end up trading for Cooper Kupp, or acquiring Cooper Kupp, and then you get yourself Dre Greenlaw. Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. At that point, then bring in John Bates. I don't really care. There you go, T-Fishes. It's like we were on the same wavelength, man. Outside of free agency, what would you say could be a big splash for Denver? Trades, re-signing, releases? I think that there's just so many things that we could do. Trades are absolutely something on the table, obviously starting with Cooper Kupp. I think the Broncos need to continue this tradition that they've been having of extending their players. I'd like to see them give Nick Benito a big contract now. If you end up doing that and you end up extending Zach Allen, you're setting yourself up really well for the future. And it could potentially, this might sound crazy, but it could make somebody like Jonathan Cooper available via trade, right? I love the guy, and I'm definitely not advocating that this happens. But what if you could trade Jonathan Cooper for like a 3rd round pick? If you really love this draft and you feel like that's the sweet spot, the Broncos could entertain it. Like I said, I still wouldn't be a fan of that, because I think it's a position of strength at edge. And, there's that, but you could still think about it. If the Broncos end up bringing like a Javon Kinlaw, or, one of these defensive, Milton Williams would be like one of my dream signings too. Then you could look at John Franklin Myers and say, okay, you can look at trading him, right? You sign Milton Williams tomorrow, I would immediately look at potentially looking to trade John Franklin Myers just to see what you can get for him. Or you can just keep him on the team. He's still going to add a ton of value. He's a very good player. You can have all 3 of those guys playing together. But these are things that you got to think about, right? So it's not necessarily what I want to see happen, but there's so many factors and scenarios just based off of guys that the Broncos ultimately end up signing, right? And that exact same process repeats after the draft as well. Nick Bolton did the 3-year deal, $45 million, like we talked about, $30 million guaranteed, essentially a 2-year deal, $30 million bucks. Not a bad deal, but it sets the market. Now you understand, all right, Dre Greenlaw, he's not going to get more than that, in my opinion. So I can deal with that. And then everything else you can kind of tier, so you can get a good idea of what the market's going to look like. Yeah, absolutely. Mass collector, no doubt. I mean, teams are trying to pay their guys, and a lot of it is probably because they realize there's just not much in this free agency market, or there's just guys that they feel like the market might become very overinflated. Like you're going to be paying a lot of money for guys that might not be worth it. That's always one of my biggest fears when it comes to free agency in general, right? I mean, you can look at the Nick Bolton signing back to the Chiefs, and yeah, I mean, it's steep for that team because that team is creating themselves, like they have big holes like on the offensive line and stuff like that, but it also makes sense for him because he's a good locker room guy. They've obviously, proven that they can draft pretty well there. So it's also contingent on like the teams and where the teams are at. The bad teams with a lot of cap money, like the Jags or the Bears or the Patriots, those teams are just naturally going to overspend. They have to. Broncos don't have to overspend, not just because, we're a good promising team, but because we have, I think, an ownership group that can help in terms of alleviating a lot of the overinflated contracts with being able to put some cash up front. But also George Payton is a very conservative GM in many ways, especially with free agency. I mean, minus the Russ trade, but whatever. We won't talk about that. A sneaky pick for the Broncos at pick 20 is Jihad Campbell. I would love Jihad Campbell here in Denver. I think he's a really great player. If you can get Jalen Walker, he would be somebody. I don't think he falls to 20, but he's a baller too. But yeah, Jihad Campbell is awesome. Taking a off-ball linebacker at 20 is always a little bit of a head scratcher in a sense of positional importance. But Jihad Campbell is really, really good, and you could use him. I mean, he's a true 3-down guy. You could send him on blitzes. You can be a lot more versatile with him. And it'd be another one of those situations where if the Broncos take care of that position, right? Let's say they bring in a Jamien Sherwood or a Robert Spillane or both, then you could just add Jihad Campbell as like he's just a great football player that can go out there. So it would make a little bit more sense there as well. No more Jaguars tax. What do you mean by? Oh, I might be a little bit confused by that. So, yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. I'm trying to think what that was. How about Sherwood from the Jets? What's his market freight? Yeah, William. We talked about that a lot. I think Jamien Sherwood now becomes the one of the top targets for the Broncos. I'm going to go back up here to what Andy had said. That was a report from Zach Stevens here in Denver. He said after talking to multiple sources, the two inside linebackers to have your eye on are Jamien Sherwood from the Jets and Robert Spillane from the Raiders. And it just makes a ton of sense, right? I don't know, like, I like Zach Stevens a lot. I don't know how good his sources are, this and that. I mean, I'm sure he's got some decent ones or similar ones to a lot of local media guys, but those guys seem to make sense. Like, I love the idea of signing Dre Greenlaw, but I can see if you were to ask me, do I feel like the Broncos have a higher chance of signing somebody like Sherwood or Spillane, right? So let's say Sherwood or Greenlaw. I would say the Broncos would definitely have a higher chance of signing Sherwood because that seems like more of a Sean Payton, George Payton type of move, right? They don't want to overspend for players. And it's hard to justify, like, it's hard to say you overspent for Sherwood if it's going to be $7 or $8 million bucks a year. That's well below a lot of the market rate for starting off-ball linebackers. So that seems to make a lot of sense to me. But I think he's a really good player. I really do believe someone like Jamien Sherwood can be a very under the radar. He can go down as one of those guys that I think is, he might be like the best bargain free agent that we have, right? And so when you're pulling him up, I mean, a lot of intriguing things about him. First of all, the fact that he's still very young, of course it doesn't show, I think he's 26 years old. But look how well-rounded he is. I mean, when you're looking at the PFF grades, right? And he got a really big opportunity to play. So this is accumulating a lot of snaps. So you can really get a good, understanding of the kind of player that he is. Very good against the run, solid on coverage. He can fly around. The one knock that I'll have on him and that I always have is the fact that he's 6'2", 216 pounds. So he's not a very big guy. But even at that, I mean, he ranks very well as a run defender. And you don't have to be very big, linebacker to be good against the run. You just have to be able to tackle really, really well. And he did have 18 missed tackles last year, but it by far his career highest, but he also played by far and away the most snaps. So a 10% missed tackle rate, believe it or not, is not that bad. But you're talking about a player that, even though he's a fourth-year guy and he's entering his fifth season, he really only played a lot this last year. So Jamien Sherwood, man, all day. He makes a ton of sense. And I don't know why it doesn't show their age on these. But like I said, I know he's no older than 26. Yeah, he's 25 years old, and he just turned 25 in January. So that is a young player, man. I dig it. But guys, I just realized the time, and I got a soccer game I got to go play. So get ready for. So I appreciate y'all, man. This is always a good time. Kodiak, William, T. Fishes, Saeed, what's going on, my man? All you, Andy, you guys are all awesome. Shout out to D-Rock, as always, man. Shout out to all you guys in the chat. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Go check out David's VIP Discord. It's awesome. We got a bunch of incredible people in there, man. We have a lot of fun. Link is in the description below. Check it out. You get 30 days free. If you don't like it, dude, then leave. No problem. But come check us out, man. Say what's up. And, we'd love to feature you guys on the channel, too. Anybody that wants to get on the channel, at least I'm speaking for myself, anybody's welcome. You just let me know. But you got to join the Discord and let me know through there. So I appreciate y'all, man. Have a great day. Appreciate it. Go Broncos as always. Take care of yourselves. Peace.